Today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Right, Dr. Clarence Heitzma from Achieve Health and Wellness. And thank you for being on this episode of Encourage and sharing your story with us today.
Oh, you're welcome, Levi. It's interesting to be here with you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I wanted to open things up by saying, what inspired you to become entrepreneurial?
Well, I don't know how I became entrepreneurial, but maybe the better question would be what inspired me to become a chiropractor?
I like that.
And then eventually, when you learn something like chiropractic or medicine or dentistry, you want to go practice what you've learned.
Right.
So what inspired me to become a chiropractor was I was in a car accident
Oh,
and had terrible headaches following the accident.
okay.
And nothing was working as far as getting me some relief. Well, I had some relief. You know, I would take the medications, but as soon as the medications wore off, my headache came back roaring.
Oh,
And it was life-altering because I was a geology, archaeology student at University of Calgary.
okay.
And studies were very difficult. Fortunately for me, this happened just before the school term was going to start again in September. But I couldn't see how I was going to handle class because usual everyday activities were a real drag. I was just in a cloud of pain and fog. It's hard to experience. If you ever had terrible headaches, then you know what I mean.
Yes, yeah.
And about 3 weeks, lucky for me is about 4 weeks into this, I met a chiropractor at a neighbor's barbecue. And just through the course of discussion like you and I are having now, he asked me how things are going and I told him. And he said, well, come see me, maybe I can help you. So at that time I didn't really know what a chiropractor did or was. So I knew what I was doing wasn't working that great. So I went to see him, and right away, it didn't take very long to figure, well, this has merit. Something's happening here that's positive.
So it was working for you.
It was working well, yeah. And so after some treatment, I asked him, what are you doing and why? And he told me, and it made a lot of sense. And so I said, well, where do you learn how to do this? So he said, well, you need to go to Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport, Iowa. And so I dropped my studies of geology, archaeology at University of Calgary, and I had all the science prerequisites to enroll. So I spent the next 4 years down in Iowa.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's where you went to school. That's where you got all
Yeah.
of your requirements to practice.
Yeah.
And here you are in Lethbridge.
Yeah.
Were you from Lethbridge originally? Or?
No, I was from Central Alberta.
Okay.
I'm a child of Highway 2. Grew up, born in Edmonton, went to back Edmonton, Calgary, and Red Deer.
Oh, fun.
But it was around Red Deer when this accident happened, and Red Deer where I got my first chiropractic adjustment.
And here you landed in good old Lethbridge.
Yeah, eventually landed in Lethbridge. Went back, when I graduated, went back to the Red Deer area and practiced there for decades, like 3.5 decades or so.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. So what brought you back to Lethbridge?
Well, after a while, 2009, the end of 2009, I retired. And my wife and I went on some church-related missions to South America, to Santiago, Chile.
Oh, wow.
Then we came back for a while and went on another mission to New York City.
Wow.
And then when we came back, our visas ran out, our mission was over. I wanted to get back into practice. And our son and the grandchildren were in Lethbridge, so we came here.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So you get to be close to family, you get to practice what you love, and ultimately what is the right terminology, what helped you overcome the pain, suffering, essentially, that you were having from your accident. Wow. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I really feel like I'm inspired to be a chiropractor.
Hey, that's all anybody could ask for, is to have that kind of level of passion, I guess, because honestly, what better way of getting into a field than through the fact that you actually needed help in that situation, right? Wow.
Well, yeah, I know what it feels like to hurt.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to hurt real bad and have your life just messed up. And I know what it feels like to feel good.
That's amazing.
And so I just want to offer that opportunity to everybody else.
That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you, I guess, would be in order, really, because you're helping people feel better, and that's a very positive thing to bring to the community. So
Every morning I wake up grateful that I get this opportunity to do this and see who we can help.
That's
next.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, again, being a practice, this might seem like an interesting or different question than for some retail environments or other type of consumer products and services. But again, because this is intended to be for entrepreneurial
Right.
people, business people, what have you found to be the best way to like attract patients to your practice?
Focus on the person that's in front of you
Okay.
and meet their needs. Find out what they really want and work to meet their needs as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Focus on the one at a time.
I like that.
And obviously we have a business model. You have to pay rent. All
Of
that
course.
stuff. All that business stuff comes into play.
Of course.
But I think every successful business focuses on their client or their customer
Yes.
to meet their needs
Yes.
and find out if their customer is the right person for them.
Also true.
Yeah, if they come in here looking for tires, well, I can't help them with that. But I can send it to some tire guys.
Well, but even I like what you say there, because I feel like sometimes in business we don't always consider that what you just mentioned. Is the client also a good fit? Sometimes even if they're here for the right reasons, they still not might be an ideal client to work with. Again, sometimes not in the same sense for your particular practice, but I find for a lot of businesses sometimes we say yes a lot, and sometimes people need to work with others too. So yeah, I don't know if that comment makes sense so much in your area of expertise and practice, but it does in retail and other professional service environments where you may not be a good fit for each other. So yeah.
Well, in our experience, you're right about that, because some people come in here with very acute conditions. They've just fallen or something's happened, and they're very acute.
Okay.
And they're in such an acute state of pain or spasm that it's very difficult or not likely that we'd be able to work with them that day.
Right.
So we send them, with our current medical situation, I either send them back to their physician,
Right.
or often to the ER because their physician's left town.
Right.
You know how it is in
Yeah,
Alberta now.
it's a
So-
challenging time right now.
And so we get some help, get this calmed down, and then when that's calmed down, then we can come back in, then we can work with it.
There we go.
So I use an analogy. It's if your house is on fire, you don't call the plumber or the carpenter. You call the fire department. They
Right.
put the fire out, and then you call in the specialists who clean it up, and then you call in the contractors to
Right.
rebuild it. So right now, your
That's a
house
great
is on
analogy,
fire.
actually.
You need to go get this fire put out, and then when that's calmed down, then we can start to restructure things.
I like that. That's actually that's a fantastic analogy.
Well-
you come up with that by yourself?
No, I have to credit that to Dr. James Chestnut in Victoria, BC.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
That's actually a really powerful message.
Yeah.
So again, we try and have advice and tips and kind of share, the situations that we've all come across. So regardless if it's a tip for an existing entrepreneur or someone just looking to become an entrepreneur, what would you say is your number one go-to tip or piece of advice that you would give someone that's starting or even has an existing business?
Well, first of all, I think you have to have passion for what you're doing. You have to have a purpose for what you're doing. And then you have to have a comfortable business model that you feel comfortable with
Right.
to pursue that passion. And then you just have to treat people with love and respect and find out what they want
Yeah.
and what they deep down really want,
Yes.
and then find a way to meet their needs.
Ah, I like that.
So whatever business you're in, roofing or advertising
yeah.
or the healthcare field, you have to have a passion and a love and a deep desire, a purpose to want to do that and share your skill,
Yes.
and then help people as quickly as possible.
I think that's fantastic. I've said it before. I'll say it again on these episodes that I think it falls in line to what you're saying. focus on your strength, hire for your weaknesses. Because again, I think that happens more often than not. I see business people that are extremely good at what they do, whether that's being a mechanic, whether that's being a roofer, or whatever the case might be. But they might not be, strong in the administrative side of their business or bookkeeping or, a plethora of items. And so I always say, do what you're good at, be passionate about what you're passionate about, and then hire for your weaknesses so that the business starts to complement itself and you're building a team.
Yeah, I agree. I think a business writer named Peter Drucker said, "Stick to your knitting." All the successful companies stick to what they're good at. And another chiropractor, Dr. John DeMartini, says, "Only do what you want to do, and only do what you're good at, and hire the rest out."
Yeah, yeah,
And that's how you grow. And that's how you come to work, and you come to your job site or your office or whatever, and you're excited to work because you have enthusiasm for it.
Yeah.
You don't dread doing something because you know someone else is way better is doing that for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy as someone starting out. Sometimes, you're a lot of entrepreneurs started in a garage in a bedroom, depending on what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so I understand that it's not always easy to just simply say, well, it must be nice to be able to hire someone, but yeah, in today's world, there's lots of opportunities. I was actually just talking to someone the other day, and they said, I just started out, and I don't have an office space yet, or a workspace yet. I'm still doing it out of my house. I can't have a receptionist or someone to answer my calls. And while I always advocate, and I'm a big proponent of working with local people and hiring local and working with local businesses, again, there's virtual assistants you can hire for, your peak times even of the day. So even if you're just starting out, you don't have to have a full-time employee. You can actually contract that out and have someone that answers calls from 11 to 3, and takes those messages for you and sends you the emails with the information, so that when you get home that evening from doing the thing you love, whether that's roofing or whatever the case might be,
Right.
that now you can go through those messages and they at least received a quality customer service aspect with your business, that they can say, hey, he's just on a job site right now, but I'll make sure that he gets back to you within 24 hours, whatever the case might be. And so there's opportunities, is my point, in that even if you're small, you can there's so many ways that you can appear to be big, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. You can appear to be big. I think what would be important to say a new entrepreneur,
Yeah.
They're probably a little bit scared.
Yeah.
They have the skill, they have a passion, but they're a little bit intimidated by the business model, or they see the big guys and they think, can I ever get like that?
Right.
And so I would just, if I could offer a piece of advice, you just stick to your knitting,
Yeah.
but become really hyper aware of what your strengths are,
Okay.
and where your next need is, and then figure out a way to supply that need for growth.
Right.
Like you said, a virtual assistants. There's with the computer age and digital, there's all sorts of phone entry services
Yep.
that you can link into.
Yep.
So just figure out what you need to keep going.
Yep.
And then as you grow, then you can just take the next step.
Right.
Don't try to take 10 steps at a time.
That's
But become aware. I
Yes.
think that's the deal, is to be aware of where your needs are and where you need to go next.
that's fantastic.
And then
advice.
look for talent in that area.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and again, I advocate the minute that you're able to hire someone on a more, even if it is part-time basis. I'm always an advocate of making sure that we support our local economy, our local
Yeah.
people, and do our best to create job opportunities. But yes, there are digital, opportunities out there that people can tap into to start to fill those little gaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, Clarence, obviously you had your accident when you were younger, and that's probably a pretty big thing to overcome. but now being in the field that you're in, what would you say was the biggest challenge you had to overcome in your chiropractic field?
Oh, coming back into practice after a few years of retirement and living in the mission field
Yeah.
and seeing life from a whole different aspect,
Okay.
seeing and then coming back to a new city where I didn't know anybody except my my son and his family,
Okay.
and so that was a bit of a kick in the face. Like I thought it would be easier than it was,
Right.
and so it was a bit of a struggle. Because I'm older and starting, but I have the energy to do it. But I just thought it was very humbling getting going again, and
I love
it
that.
wasn't as easy when I was new in a smaller town.
I think even just hearing you speak, it's even though you were doing it before and in another city, it's never too late to start a business and follow your passions. So the fact that you retired and came back, while I get that you were doing something before, I mean, it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what age you're at. If you have something that you're passionate about, you can, follow that.
Yeah, there's no age limit. I want to keep doing this until I can.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just felt I had more to give,
That's
and
amazing.
more to. It's an adventure. I've always experienced life as an adventure, so it's an adventure.
It is.
It is, and so it's if you want to do something, don't use age as a barrier.
Yeah.
Read about other old guys that have
Yeah.
done it. Some guys don't write their first novel till they're 65.
I
Or,
love-
I don't know who exactly that is,
Yeah.
but there's all sorts of examples if you dig around
Oh, for sure.
who find they really hit their stride later in life.
Well, I mean, obviously, the longer we live, the more wisdom we acquire, and I mean, I hope anyway. And you have so many life lessons and knowledge to feed off of, to actually, I think, even be really successful in entrepreneurial life, right? Because you can feed off of those experiences, and positive and negative, to feed your passion.
Yes, I agree. You need you have all that experience, and I have a lot of experience. So when people come in, I have a pretty good idea after listening to their story what's going on and what it's going to take to help them out. And then I think this goes for me and probably for other business people too. They surround themselves with like-minded individuals or mentors,
Yep.
coaches, somebody or a group of people to bounce ideas back and forth,
Yep.
to commiserate, when they're feeling down and having a pity party, they can call them, and reach out for somebody
Yep.
and sort of regroup and
That's
carry
true.
on.
Are you? Is that like? Are you referencing BNI in that aspect?
Well,
Or?
BNI, a local business group, it's international,
Yeah.
but we have, BNI, that's one.
Yeah.
And I have others that are more professionally tailored for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's important to have, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a group. Yeah, I've had the pleasure and privilege of experiencing both, and also just the honestly the privilege of being able to feed off of a few mentors that are older and wiser than I am,
Yeah.
and that they've been kind enough to take me under their wing, and if I pick up the phone and call them and I have a question, or like you said, you're just feeling down about whatever,
Yeah.
you can lean on them, and they're amazing support. So highly recommend, if people have the opportunity to seek out a business mentor, or just a mentor in general.
Yeah. Too often I think people feel like they're alone, they're stuck on an island by themselves. And sometimes you can feel like that. And so it's good to have a group like
Yeah.
we've just talked about to reach out to and realize that you're not alone.
Yep. Yeah, it's well, there's an old saying, obviously, but like, it's lonely at the top. From a hierarchy perspective, I mean, I get it. As a business owner, I guess you could say you're at the top of the ranking of your personal business, but yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how big or small a business is. They're actually all having the same problems. they're all having the same obstacles. They're all facing the same financial situations. They're just at a different scale. And I learned that. I was fortunate enough to learn that early on. But yeah, it's true. Sometimes I'd say like, that's not fair. This other company can afford to potentially hire someone that isn't a good fit, and no skin off their back. I mean, they got plenty of money to be able to absorb that. And as I obviously got more and more into business, I'm like, well, that was kind of silly of me to think that way, because just because they're bigger doesn't mean that they also can afford to cycle through wrong individuals through hiring or whatnot. So yeah, it's just a different scale. The situations are still the same. They're just at a different scale, and they matter just as much, regardless of the size of the business too.
Yeah, no, that's a good perspective, because life happens to everybody, no matter who you are or how big your company or industry is.
Yeah,
And like you said, it's just a matter of scale, and then you just have to employ the same techniques to figure your way out of it,
right,
or overcome it.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that this is a weird example of it, but even if we go back to the banking industry as an example, during the financial crisis, right?
Yeah.
And, these were big institutions, and again, we can not going to debate, the underlying causes, but at the end of the day, I mean, those businesses were on the brink of bankruptcy and insolvency, if it wasn't for some government assistance to help them get through that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, these were massive companies that the average small town entrepreneur, wouldn't be able to fathom, the structure and size of those kind of companies, and they can go through the same pain that a small business can. That's for sure. So obviously you have a team that you work with. How have you found is a good way to, one, build a team and retain that team?
Build a team, find the right person, be very strict, I guess, in hiring. Who do you want? Who do you want to fit that role? Are they a team player? Are they the right personality, or are they the right behavioral type to fill that job? And fortunately for me, I have an excellent team member who helps me out every day. She's very good.
Oh,
And so you want to do that. And then you want to make it pleasant for them to work with you,
yep.
an environment, and cater to them, pamper them,
I love
and
that.
just help them out. Help them be comfortable.
That's great
And
advice.
get involve your team in training and a growing process.
I agree. I mean, for me, I didn't have a lot of guidance early on in hiring. Even a couple of the mentors that I did have were primarily solopreneurs. I mean, they ran really successful, their own very successful businesses, but they didn't have staff. And so sometimes it was challenging for them to be able to give me that kind of advice. I learned along the way that it just was really important to write it out, and to get it on paper, on what you were looking for, what you wanted the responsibilities to be, what you wanted the relationship to look like, essentially, and having that as your guiding light to fill a position always helped to hire the right people.
Yeah, writing things down is a good idea, because it helps keep you on track and reminds you of what you want. And you can always change it too, but at least you have a template or a record of
Yeah.
what you're originally thought of.
Yes, yeah, you can always grow from it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I love this conversation. Honestly, you have some really good you have some really good points, Clarence. I appreciate that.
Well, I've been around a long time.
Well, here's one for you then. If you could name one book that you feel has made probably the biggest impact on you, what would that book be?
There's business books, but then, it's a spiritual book, right?
Sure.
It's the Bible, the Book of Mormon.
Okay.
It's something that grounds me every day. It reminds me who I am, reminds me that there is a higher power, and that
Right.
when we serve our higher power, we love to serve others. So that's the most powerful book. Those are the two most powerful books in my world, the Bible and Book of Mormon.
Good for you.
And then there's business books. You know,
Yeah.
there's Earl Nightingale, there's Jim Rohn, there's
Ooh.
Og Mandino. There's lots of them, right?
Is there a title that sticks out
Josh
to you on the
Wagner?
business
Josh
side?
Wagner's written a book called You Deserve It.
You deserve it. Okay.
Yeah. There's a new one I'm reading now called Be Your Future Self by Benjamin Hardy.
Okay.
There's one called Hardwire by Dr. Lou Francisetti, who's an emergency care physician up at Royal Alex Hospital in Edmonton. And so I'm always reading, but those are so the first two I mentioned
Yeah.
were my go-to always every day.
Yes.
And then the other ones I just cycle through. I'm always looking for something new. So.
Because it's funny how, I mean, obviously from a spiritual perspective, very powerful.
Yeah.
From the business books that you've read, it actually is pretty funny how you can pull certain things from them. And if you go back to them, if I heard you correctly, even going back to some of those books from time to time, as you mature in your business life,
Yeah.
they can have different meanings. You can pull different information that, initially when you read that book, you had certain takeaways, and if you go back to it again, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't take that part
Yeah.
out now,
That's
and now that means something to me. So
Well, when you read it again, you're a different person, right? Because
Yeah.
you're not the same person you were last year, and you won't be the same person today that will be in 5 years. So when you read something, it strikes you different. It's almost like that was never there the first time you read it.
yeah,
And in between time, they put it in there because you pick it up on. So he asked me of a title. I think of a title like "Lead the Field" by Earl Nightingale.
Okay.
He was like one of the forefathers or the pioneers of this positive attitude.
yeah,
Norman Vincent Peale, Napoleon Hill. Those are some classics. The
They
Greatest Secret by Og Mandino.
you've read some good ones.
Well, I've read a bunch. Yeah, and so then you want to take those principles and then apply them
Yes.
in your life with your family, with your clients, your customers, with your neighbors. Just everything to help you be a good person to serve others.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I actually find it interesting how many business books help you with also family
Yeah.
life, because they do provide certain pieces of advice or structure even that you may be lacking, because you can be really good at business and you can be really bad at family life.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, you can be really good at family life and not so good at business. And so I feel they're often actually kind of intertwined. A lot of the things that I learn in business end up becoming really good principles to help lead my family, to whether that's through love and nurture, whether that's through structure and discipline.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that you can learn in entrepreneurial life that do apply to home life, and I think it's pretty powerful that you can balance that out.
It's very important, because all these books, most all business books are built on sales, right?
Right,
And so everything is a sale.
right.
You got to sell yourself to get up in the morning. You got to sell yourself. You sell your children on it's not safe to play in the street. So everything's a sale.
It is.
And so you want to be good at sales.
Yes.
No matter what.
Well, I agree, because I talk to lots of people and they say, well, I don't want to be in sales, or I don't want anything to do with sales. And they forget that life, like you just said, like life is sales.
Yeah.
Everything you do in life is, like you said, almost selling yourself, whether it's a job interview, whether it's going out on a date, whether it's meeting a new friend. Even though you may not be, don't confuse salesmanship with persuasion.
Right.
But if you're being honest and telling your stories, I mean, yeah, that is how you end up selling yourself to people and building trust and creating relationships that, are beautiful.
Absolutely, yeah. Building sales and creating trust between individuals
Yep.
is, it's vital.
Yes, agreed. And to me, it's even more critical these days. As much as I love technology, being in the marketing and advertising digital world, I feel grounded to want to have these kinds of conversations, and these kinds of connections, and bring back, I'll call it the human touch, because I do feel like it's missing a bit in today's world. I mean, especially even going through COVID, obviously a lot of people created habitual distancing. So even though it may not be intentional, we were kind of forced to be in our own little worlds, our own little bubbles, and so it's okay to break that bubble essentially, and come back out to the world and talk and shake a hand and enjoy a hug and a meal and whatever that looks like, and be personable with people.
Yeah.
Relationships matter.
They do matter, and we want to get back to those relationships as quickly as possible.
Yes.
I think there's still sort of a bit of a COVID hangover still.
Yep.
And we still have to be wary and pay
Of
attention to hygiene issues.
Yep.
But it's time to really get back to being social and getting back and enjoying life with vigor.
I love that. So for a guy like yourself, what does a morning routine look like for you?
Well, I usually get up between 4:30 and 5:30.
Good for you.
I'm a slow waker upper, so it takes me a while to get going. So I get up and I wander around. Today I did 100 push-ups because I'm on a course to do hundreds of push-ups
Really?
a week. Yeah, so I did 100 push-ups this morning. Then I went to the gym and ran on the treadmill, did intervals. So I go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week
That's incredible.
and do things. I read. My wife and I read scripture every morning together before we head out.
Incredible.
And just sort of get my body together and my mind and my heart together.
Wow, that's really powerful, actually.
So yeah, that's what we do in the morning.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, clearly I need to adapt a little bit because I don't have that same structure yet. Granted, I have 4 little ones running around, so sometimes I don't get that same structure. I still wake up early,
Yeah.
But I'm a slow waker upper myself.
Yeah.
I do personally enjoy getting up and having a peaceful coffee before the kids get up, and that's usually when I will read some articles. And for me, I digest audiobooks better than I can read them.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I actually tend to forget reading more than I do listening.
Yeah.
And so that's usually part of my morning routine, is to listen to something. Some days I can have a great takeaway from it. Some days you don't.
Yeah.
But always looking at, that small, tiny self-improvement, finding that positivity to start the day.
There's so much available in audio. Like every morning, well, I do a meditation as well.
Yeah.
My wife and I do a meditation. I might do another meditation at lunch.
Wow.
Yeah. But there's so much available on digitally, right?
Yeah.
All sorts of different apps.
Yeah.
Guys with interesting podcasts to tune into, audio books. There's
Agreed.
so much available. There's not much time for laziness.
No. Well, not in our world, I don't
No.
think. Yeah, we don't sit. I don't think the entrepreneurial spirit allows you to sit back and not try and engage constantly in something.
Stephen Covey, another guy that I've read.
Okay.
He wrote a book called the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, or something like
Yeah.
that. I may have butchered the title of the book. But Stephen Covey says you have to take time to sharpen the saw, right? Because if you're, I think, he says something like this. I think he related a story. If Abraham Lincoln was given a task to chop a bunch of wood, it's like 6 hours. Abe Lincoln says, well, I'd spend that first 5 hours sharpening my axe. And then that relates to Stephen Covey. If you don't sharpen your saw and refresh, then your saw becomes useless and you're not cutting much wood anymore. So whatever we do, we need time to relax and regroup. So we can go back and do what we do better.
That's right.
Yeah. So we do need time to rest.
That is valid. I guess in my comment of busyness, it also reflects on taking that time, but basically making it meaningful.
Yeah.
If you need to shut down, right, and that might mean going on a vacation or just spending quality time with your family, leave the office, shut it down, spend that time that you need to relax and unwind.
Yeah.
Other times, like you say, it could be meditation, it could be reading a book, it could be an audiobook, it could be going for a walk, going to
Yeah.
the gym.
Yeah.
There are so many ways that you can break that down, but the point is like to make some time to accomplish some of those things.
We have a saying in the healthcare world that if you don't take time for your health, someday your health will take up all your time. And so we have to apply that to ourselves. So we have to stop.
Can you repeat that again? Sorry, I really want to remember that.
If you don't take time for your health,
Yeah.
someday your health will take up all your time.
Isn't that the truth?
It is. You know, I see it every day with older people that have worked their fingers to the bone,
Yeah.
planning on retirement to do all the stuff, the fun stuff they want to do.
Yeah.
And then a health crisis comes up or some tragedy happens,
Yeah.
and they've worked all their life, and now they can't do what they want to do because they're limited
Yeah.
by their health.
So it's important to take time when you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and enjoy the little things in life. You don't have to wait till it's potentially too late.
Yeah. Like spend time with your family, your children. Do the things with them because someday they'll be gone. You know, they're only with you a short time.
Yeah, you got to enjoy those moments. Oh
Yeah.
man, you really do.
As difficult as some of those moments are, because you're running around in 5 different places with different kids, taking them here and there, and you come home and you just collapse. But those are moments that you'll look back on and remember
totally.
with fondness
Yes,
and wonder how you had the energy to do that.
and those are moments they remember too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny. Even all of us, I imagine, growing up, but there's so many things that I remember, but they don't have importance. While a lot of the little things of, as simple as my mom coming to my soccer games.
Yeah.
I remember that, and that to this day means a lot, right? It was like she was there no matter what. It wasn't the toy, it wasn't a Christmas present. It was just time.
Yeah,
Time. So, yeah, family time is very important to me too.
absolutely. Yes.
Well, to end our discussion today, to the best of your ability anyway, what's something that you would have told your beginning self, starting in the chiropractic journey, that you know today but you didn't know back then?
I would say I just answered this question to one of my coaches.
Okay, oh great.
last week. I would say get over yourself. That it's not about you; it's about the person you're serving,
Okay,
and do that. Really strive to find out how you can serve them,
interesting.
and listen to their story. Don't be so intent on telling them your story,
Right.
but instead listen to their story.
That's brilliant. Actually, I'm so thankful you just said that. From my area of marketing, it's something I really, really try and teach businesses and business owners, that oftentimes, whether it's a website, whether it's their communication pieces, the way that they're engaging with customers, it's often led by what I say, like me, that we do this, we do that, and a lot of times the lingo isn't directed to how can I help you,
Yeah.
and making it about the client, the customer, the patient,
Yeah.
whatever that might look like. So taking time to reflect on what are the things you do in your business that, and how does that actually relate to the people that you help, and work on your verbiage and your messaging, again from a marketing side,
Yeah.
on how you can say that so that it resonates with them as opposed to, me or we.
Yeah. You want me to answer that?
Sure, sure.
Okay. So when people phone
Yep.
and ask for an appointment, we tell them what's going to happen.
Yep.
We tell them that we consult with them to find out if the doctor can help.
Yep.
And so when I get in there, I tell them what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to your story. Tell me everything about why you're here today and why you're seeking care. And then I ask them several questions to dig into that, how it affects their daily routine or their hobbies or their work or whatever. How is it affecting them the most? And then after they tell me their story and I hear how it's affecting them, then I decide, is this the person that I can help?
Right.
And if I can help them, then I tell them that, and we go down the examination or the assessment process, and,
Right.
and then we lay out we find out what's going on, and we make what's called a diagnosis. And then I have a treatment plan. Here's what we need to do to get you. So during their story, I ask them, what do you want to achieve? If you
Right.
could look at yourself in 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, how do you see yourself different? And they tell me they can do this, this, and this, or whatever. So then we go down, then I give them a treatment plan that will help them the best to achieve their goal.
Excellent.
And that's what we do.
Excellent.
That's what we do. And if we can't help them, or if it's a parent that needs some outside help, then I will refer them to, say, maybe a physiotherapist,
Right.
or to
A
somebody
physician
else.
or yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what we try to do.
That's excellent. Yeah, I really appreciate that answer, and you're right. It's it just all comes down to caring for the people that you want to serve.
Yeah, like why are you here, and what's your ultimate outcome? What would make you happy in 2 weeks or 3 months or whatever, depending on the condition, the severity, and the length of time. Just like you with a client.
Yeah.
What do you want to achieve with this campaign?
Yeah,
And so then you put together a package that you found from your experience
Yeah.
will help them achieve that
That's
end
right.
result. So that's what we try to do with people.
I love it.
We want to get people to what we call their happy spot as quickly as possible.
That's excellent, Clarence. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your story with us today, and just, again, we never know who's watching, who's listening, but if anybody gets inspired by your comments and story, then that's what really matters to me at the end of the day, is sharing these moments and letting other people get to know us as persons, and not necessarily always as the business.
Yeah.
So yeah, just creating those personal connections. So I appreciate you taking the time to make a personal connection with me too.
Well, thank you.
Means
I
a lot.
appreciate this time with you and Zach, and I
Thank
would
you.
invite anyone else who is watching this. I would love to meet you too. We could meet for lunch
Yeah.
sometime. That'd be great.
I love that. That's great. There you go. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Clarence.
You're welcome.
You're a good
Thank you.
man.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks again.